Alright guys, so if you're watching this video, you're probably getting ready to move to Idaho in the year 2024. Now there's a lot to Idaho, but we're going to cover 10 things at a minimum that I think that you should know before making that decision or before you relocate to Idaho. I'm your host Naseem Eissa, and I'm super excited to do this video for you guys because a lot of people are asking me right now, what is it like in Idaho? What's the weather like? Or how's the commute time? And how's the economy? We're getting so many questions, and I want to make sure that I address all the big questions that I'm getting, the top 10 questions specifically that I'm getting right now for a lot of people relocating from California, Washington, Colorado, wherever it may be that you're coming from. I'm going to answer all your questions hopefully in this video, and if I don't, make sure you leave your questions in the comments and I'll get back to you ASAP. So without further ado, let's dive into the top 10 questions I've been getting about Idaho. So we're going to talk about what I think is one of the most important things when moving to Idaho, because a lot of people don't think about this aspect, but the weather, climate slash geography of Idaho. So geography wise, Idaho has everything from mountains, as you can see, to city platforms, to hills, to beautiful, stunning lakes that you can just take a day off and really go enjoy. So there's a good mixture of everything. It's pretty diversified in the geography side of things. Now, as far as climate, we do get all 4 seasons. So we're talking about a good summer. Currently, we're in a weird winter phase right now where all the snow has melted, but it's literally raining as we're making this video. But you do get spring, you do get a hot summer, you do get a nice and chill, kind of cool fall, and you do get a cold winter. So you literally get all 4 seasons in the state of Idaho. Now, I will say the summers aren't too bad. You do get triple-digit weather every now and then, but as far as the winter, it also can get pretty cold. Now, I did get here right before the worst winter that we probably ever had, and that was back in 2016. But this last month, in the span of probably a week or two, we had the most snowfall. It was some crazy statistic that it was like the 13th worst month of snow in 50 or 60 years or something crazy like that. So with that being said, the weather can be all over the place, but as long as you plan for it, then you should be okay. Now let's dive into subject number 9. All right, so next we're gonna talk about cost of living. Now overall, cost of living wise, Idaho is fairly affordable. Now I will say this, there are parts of Idaho, such as Eagle, where a lot more wealth is in the city. We'll say it that way. It's a lot more expensive to live there or to enjoy the things that they offer in that city specifically. It's just a lot more expensive depending on housing and what you're buying and things of that nature, right? Just entertainment wise, even Eagle is a little more expensive. Now, as far as suburbs of like Boise and things of that nature, cost of living is a lot cheaper, it's a lot better, housing is a lot better, but as you get closer to the bigger cities, obviously it does get more expensive. But overall, Idaho is very affordable for the majority. But now coming to subject number 8, we're going to be talking about employment opportunities, or just employment in general, right? So employment in Idaho is growing. There's a need for people to come out here and work, and they're just growing from healthcare to technology to manufacturing. Those are like the big 3 that are really driving Idaho right now as far as work opportunities. Obviously, you still have your things such as retail stores like Nike or Albertsons, or just shopping outlets. Things of that nature are still going to be a good majority as well. However, Idaho itself is really famous for healthcare, which actually combines with education, taking over 11% of Idaho's job occupation. So if you're in the healthcare, education, manufacturing, or even technology career fields, Idaho might be a great place for you to relocate and settle down. Now let's talk a little bit about Idaho's education system. Now, truthfully, Idaho's education system hasn't been the best in the past. However, with how it's been headed, the direction that they're taking and the strides that they're making in the educational side of things, it's gotten a lot better, and academically they are really committed to becoming excellent in academics, and even sports is starting to grow out here. So overall, what that looks like is there's a lot of public schools, there's a lot of private schools, charter schools, and even the homeschool population is pretty popular out here because, you know, a lot more people want to kind of control what their kids are starting to congest or starting to digest as far as content and information and things of that nature, especially with all the crazy things going on in today's world. So with that being said, depending on what areas you are, obviously there's different levels of education, and if you need a link for that, I'm more than happy to provide you with that. We're not going to dive too much into that in this video, so let's take it with number 6. All right, now one of the most important things that people need to consider is going to be safety, right? Now when you think of Idaho, you probably think there's probably not a lot going on in Idaho. You're absolutely correct. Idaho is one of the safest states across the nation, across the board in general. And I think it has to do with such a strong sense of community. Like, there's not a lot of violence. There's not a lot of drugs being moved around here. There's not a lot of crime in general. So it's very rare. And honestly, it's kind of funny. My girlfriend and I were talking about this yesterday. We were like, man, it's like when something happens on the news, it's like actually news, because nothing happens in Idaho outside of more positive things, thankfully, right? But you never know, things may change. Population is growing. We're becoming more and more populated as time goes by. As you know, Idaho is one of the most relocated states in the country right now. I believe it's ranked number 6 now out of all 50 states. So with that being said, crime overall in Idaho is great. There's no worries. Even for myself, I've left the garage open a couple nights in a row, completely forgot about it unintentionally, and nothing has happened. So you can rest assured that you'll be safe in Idaho. All right, now we're coming down to number 5. So with us talking about community, let's dive into community and social life. Now, as I said previously when talking about the crime rates, Idaho has a very strong sense of community now, especially in Boise, right? Boise, which is in southwest Idaho, which is the capital of Idaho. There's just a lot of events that are always going on year-round long, whether it's Christmas time, whether it's summertime. There's just so much going on, especially at the parks, for example. And Morrison Park is a huge one in the Boise, Treasure Valley area, where they're always throwing events that are just amazing to attend. For example, there's a soul food festival. There's a lot of concerts that happen. You have the big potato drop during New Year's, and yes, they literally drop a potato at New Year's at the Boise Capitol. So if you've ever not been there, you definitely want to check that out, because it's probably one of the most comical but entertaining things at the same time. So definitely something I would check out. But man, as far as community and social life, there's just so much to do, and people are so inviting and friendly overall. Now, I know you may see things behind the internet, right? But I'm a big believer that there's keyboard warriors and then there's people in real life. And let's be honest, not a lot of people are about what they say on the internet. So with that being said, I just feel like there's a great sense of community in Idaho. And I think a lot of people move here because they feel that, and it just adds to the quality of life. So something else I want to talk about today is going to be transportation. So transportation overall, there's not a huge public transit. So when I talk about public transit, I'm talking about like buses or trains or things of that nature. It just doesn't really exist in Idaho itself. Now, I will say Uber, Lyft, all those kind of companies, or even just, you know, there may be a couple taxis at the airport and things of that nature, but overall, there's not a lot as far as public transportation. Transportation is really dependable on personal vehicles, bikes, or skateboards, whatever you prefer, right? But as far as public transportation itself, it just doesn't really exist out here in Idaho. Now, with that being touched, we're gonna move on to number 3. All right, next we're gonna talk about healthcare, because it's very important that we can stay healthy. And there's a lot of people out there that may have special needs that they just need to make sure that there's specialists around. Now, when it comes to that specifically, Idaho is huge with the healthcare industry, as I've said, but there is also still a huge need to fill some of the gaps that they have. So maybe more so if you have a special need, as I was saying, maybe it's neurological, or maybe you have certain things that you can't do, or certain things that you need attention, it may be a little harder to get those services. So I would definitely make sure that you can get that healthcare that you need provided to you, depending on where you're moving in the state of Idaho. Now, overall, around the Boise suburbs and areas like that, there's galore, it's hospital galore. There's healthcare stores literally everywhere, from hospitals to smaller private practices offered around the Treasure Valley. But if you do need that special attention, or if you have to go to a VA hospital, that is also available in Boise. But like I said, just make sure that the needs that you need are provided in the area that you're moving to, because as you get more rural, or if you step out more into the mountains, obviously there's going to be less healthcare afforded to you in those areas. All right, now number 2 we're going to talk about, which is actually going to be one of the most important things we talk about today, is the real estate market. Now, the real estate market has gotten significantly better out here as far as the Boise and Treasure Valley area. Prices have dipped a little bit, especially with interest rates, because they got so high in 2022/2023 that people started, you know, slowly taking the gas pedal off purchasing a home. So we kind of got away from the COVID times where people were coming in $50,000 over asking, and or $50,000 to $200,000 over asking, as some of the stories I've heard. But overall, the real estate market has gotten significantly better and is a little more affordable. However, as I stated before, Eagle, Idaho is a little more expensive on the housing market side of things, and Boise is a little more expensive as well, because the median house price in Ada County, where you have the Treasure Valley, aka Boise, Meridian, Nampa, in Star, Idaho, you're looking at about a $535,000 median price point, which is nothing if you're coming from a state like California, or if you're coming from a state like a city like Las Vegas maybe, or Washington. It's a lot more affordable here. But with that being said, it is still a little pricey, and truthfully, in 2024, we are predicting that the housing market is gonna get crazier than ever around the late spring to summer time frame, just because interest rates are continuing to drop. But with that being said, if you have the right real estate agent representing you, then you can make sure that you come out top when you guys are negotiating for your next home. And with that being said, I do want to remind you guys, I am a licensed real estate agent in the state of Idaho, and I can help you pretty much anywhere. So make sure you guys reach out to me at this phone number, call, text, email, whatever you guys are comfortable with. I am the one that personally answers the phone and text messages and emails. So reach out to me and we will get you guys something that you absolutely love. Now let's dive into that just a little more. So as I said, Eagle and Boise are going to be a little more expensive as far as housing wise, but as you get more suburb, for example, Meridian, Nampa, Cuna, Caldwell, Mountain Home, Garden City, areas like that are going to be cheaper. So if you're okay making a commute, which just so you guys know, commute time in Idaho is just a little bit over 26 minutes, which is below the national average, which means you can get from point A to point B relatively quickly. And if you're willing to move out a little bit, you don't have to worry too much about if you're going to run into traffic or commute times taking you back a little bit. So just something to think about, something to consider. But if you are looking to be a little more affordable, then a lot of people love the suburbs of Boise. And if you are looking to be a little closer to Boise, then you may have to pay the price. But with that being said, as I stated earlier in the video, Idaho in general is pretty affordable, and that does roll over into the housing market. But with the population growing, I think prices are going to continue to rise. So if you can get in sooner than later, it's obviously going to be better for you. So with that being said, we're going to come to point number one, which is going to be food and entertainment. So food wise, Boise is pretty diverse. Now we're starting to see a lot more mom and pop or farm to restaurants pop up, and it's been absolutely lovely to watch, especially as we get a more diversified eating scenery, and just there's more breweries popping up, there's wineries in the areas. There's just so much that Idaho has to offer. And as we continue to grow, for example, Meridian, Idaho, they just opened up the first In-N-Out in the state of Idaho, which if you're an In-N-Out fan, awesome. If you hate In-N-Out, or if you hate California for whatever reason that may be, then you're probably not a big fan anyways. But even with that being said, there's just so much opportunity as far as where you can go eat, what downtown Boise has to offer, what all these different cities have to offer food wise. You just never know. You definitely will find hole-in-the-wall restaurants. You'll definitely find fine dining cuisine, and just there's so much that you can explore. And that's probably one of the best things that Boise has to offer, especially if you're a foodie like me. Now, entertainment wise, you do have downtown Boise, the nightlife. You do have outdoor recreation, which is probably the biggest reason a lot of people are attracted to the state of Idaho. Now, there's a lot of kayaking that you can do, snowboarding, skiing. There's so much that you can do on the outdoor side of things that entertainment wise, you really can't run out of things to do, which adds so much positivity overall to the life quality out here in Idaho. So if you're thinking about relocating, as I said earlier in the video, I am a licensed real estate agent, and I would love to help you guys with all your home buying needs. Make sure you contact me at this phone number and email below. If you haven't already done this, make sure you guys like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more videos just like this.